Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a resume using HTML and CSS. So for that, we're going to use Layoutit CSS grid generator, which allows us to click on boxes, name them, and it will automatically make divs with CSS and HTML. So for our resume, I want to have our name at the top, so I'm going to click and drag name, and skills on the side, so I'll click and drag a couple boxes. Name that skills, okay, and then the rest I'll name body. Save. And we can see over on the right side here that it's updating our HTML and CSS as we make the changes. So one thing I want to do is I want to make the name div smaller. So I'll grab this line here, scoot it up. I think that's enough. And we can see it's automatically adds our columns and rows, heights and widths. So I will also do the same thing with our skills. I think that'll be good. And inside of the body, I want to have education and a work history div. So I'll go ahead and click this button to add a subgrid, and I'll click and drag here, education. And below it, save, and below it, I'm going to do the same thing. Work, save, and scoot this line up because I have more work experience than education. So now I'm going to go ahead and click Create CodePen. And what that does is takes all of that HTML and CSS that we generated over in our layout editor and brings it in here into CodePen, which is a browser-based code editor. So it splits it up into our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. But for today, I'm not really going to use any JavaScript, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that down there. So we can see our grid. It's laid out with these red lines, and it's labeled everything for us. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by adding our name. So we'll go in here to our name div, and in between the opening and closing brackets, I'll add header, large header. So if we give it a second, it should pop up here, and it's your name now. But I do want that to be centered inside of the page. So I'm going to go down into the CSS and find where it targets that name div. And for personal reasons, I like to have the brackets sort of formatted this way. So I'm going to go ahead and hit text line, etc. And that just shifts our text over to the center of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and add the skills now. For that, I'll find the skills div. And inside of here, I'm going to add another header. And I will say skills. And in a second, it'll pop up. There we go. I think that's too big, so I'm going to make it one size smaller. Change that to an H2. Larger numbers are actually smaller. And I think that looks good. So then I also want to have a list of my skills. So we'll do an unordered list. Because if we did an ordered list, it would have the bullets rather than just having bullet points. So say 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'd rather have the bullet points. So we'll see inside of here, I will make a list item using the list item tag, LL, and say HTML is one of our skills. And I'll do another one, CSS. And now we see it's populating our bullets. So I already have a list of some skills that I'm going to use here. Go ahead and pop those in. And now it's populated that whole column. Pretty much. That's enough skills for right now. I'm not an expert yet. So I want to add an underline to where it says skills here. Just to sort of make it look a little more professional, separated. So I'm going to go in our CSS here. I'm going to go where it says skills. It targets our skills div. And again, I'm going to just move those brackets out of the way. So I'll go ahead and say text decoration underline. But you see, it added the underline to everything inside of here, everything inside of the skills div. So if we want just this H2 to have the underline, we'll have to specifically target that. We can do that by targeting skills and any H2 inside of there. Now, if we had multiple H2s, it would add the underlines to all of those. But since we only have one, we can just do it this way. So cut and paste that underline into here. And now you see it just adds the underline to where it says skills. Now I will format these a little bit, the list. So for that, I will specifically target that. So we'll go into our skills div, and then we'll do an unordered list, but also the list items. I'll tell you why in just a second. So inside of here, we want to first, I want to get rid of the bullet points. So I'll do list style. So that just gets rid of the bullet points. Now, there's another one where you could do squares if you think that looks better, but I just think it looks neater. And I'm also going to add some padding. So this is where targeting specifically the list items comes into play. Because by adding some padding, we're going to add some space between the top and bottom of each item in the list. If we just targeted the unordered list itself, it would add padding between each list. But we only have one in here, so we want to space out just the items within that. So go ahead and do padding. I'll do 5 pixels. See how that looks. I think I'll do 10 pixels instead. Okay, yeah, that looks nice. But also I want to center where it says skills because it's it's weird off to the side. So come back here and I'll specifically target that header and it'll say text line center. Okay, so it's looking a lot better than it was. Now I think we could start on our education tab. We'll come back into the HTML and we'll find our education div that's nested inside of the body. And inside of that, I will say, I'll do an H2. Say, that's a university. And I do want another unordered list of list items. And I'll say, what did I do? I am a junior. I and say that I have no GPA, which is not true, which is true actually. And I am an IST major. Okay. So now we can see that. And it's starting to get a little crowded here with all of the red lines and everything. So in our CSS, we can see down here, it says for presentation only, no need to copy this. And this is just what's adding the names of our grid and all the red lines and everything. So go ahead and get rid of all of that. And now that cleans it up a lot. But these are kind of blending together. So I want to add a line on the side of the skills list here. So for that, I'm going to go back to our CSS. I guess we're already in here. So I will find the skills div, and there I'm going to add a border on the right side, and I'll just say solid blank. Okay, so I think that looks a lot nicer. Now we can address this in a second. This is sort of right up against it. But I do like how that just breaks it up and makes it look a little cleaner and neater. So you know all the skills are here, and then this is a separate section. So what we'll do with this is we'll add some padding around all this, just to sort of space it a little more. I do still want it left justified, but I'd rather have the padding there as well. So in the body, we'll find our education. And I like the way that these brackets are spaced. And I will say let's see how 10 pixels looks again. Okay, maybe up to 20. So that just shifts it over a little bit, shifts it down. So now we can start working on our work history. But again, I want to add another line. So I'll go ahead and find that first line. Border rights. Copy that. Here. Say okay. Now we are working on our work history. And I just want to space that out. And I'll go ahead and add a few fields to the work history. So I spent some more time working on this, and I made a couple of changes. First thing I want to point out is for my education here, rather than just using a standard padding, I added padding left because that was moving it down and to the right. So now I just added the padding only on the left side and not the top or all around. And then I did add a couple more headers here just to make it obvious that this is the education and work history tabs. So I added my days at NASA and I added my YouTube channel. And I just added a 1 pixel padding in these lists just to give it a little more spacing. And I wanted to show you one more thing, and that is I want to make my professional YouTube header red. So if I were to try and target that using the divs, it would change both of these to red. But there is a way where we can go into the HTML here and find my professional YouTube. And we'll go into the H3 tag and we can add something. We can add an ID equals and name it whatever you want. I'll say YouTube. So now that has its own name. And we can go down in the CSS. And inside of here, we can target that by, instead of using a period, we'll use the hash symbol. YouTube. And we'll say the color is red. Alright, so now it changes the color of that, and it matches the YouTube red. And I just, instead of targeting the div, I added an ID and targeted that specifically by using the hash symbol. So from here, I think you should be able to go ahead and modify this however you want. I will leave this CodePen down in the description below. And thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.